So it's kind of off the cuff. I didn't really plan on doing this. I was just sort of feeling the need to, well, the urge to do this because I've done some thinking on this since, well, Charlie Kirk was killed. And what's funny is I sat down to do something completely different. Honestly, I'm getting ready to do the talking portion of a DNT video, right? Where I start talking about that optic and all of that stuff. And what's interesting, at least in my brain, is I didn't originally want to do a video like this, right? Because, well, at the time, it didn't feel 100% right. But the thing is that the more that I thought about it, and the more that I thought about what something like this means to the country more than anything else, is that it's important that if you have something that's on your mind like this, you should say something about it. So, this is going to be a little rambly, right? But, I grew up, uh, born in 1990, right? I'm turning 35 this year. I grew up during a time and place where a lot of people were really trying to push like the self-esteem movements and political correctness and things like that. And I remember hearing my dad complain about the softness that they're trying to push toward people. And I used to be kind of annoyed at that, right? Where it's like, God, they're just trying to be reasonable. Who cares? And then I became a young adult and I noticed that it was getting worse. Not quite bad yet, but it was getting worse. And it kept coming and it kept getting worse. I've been saying for quite some time now, shoot, since like 2015. So, good God, 10 years now that I've been saying, we're watching people get fed up with a thought process and an ideology. And before it goes out, it's only going to get crazy. And I've heard a lot of people black pill and conspiracy theorize, and I've heard a lot of people talk about the doom of the nation that I live in, right? And, you know, I always resisted that thought process primarily because, well, I live here, right? I'm still in our army. I serve this country. I don't do anything freaking crazy for it, but I serve this country. And I find it important to me, right? So to hear stuff like that, I would actively resist. You know, I would go out of my way to do a lot of things for it. Just just serving like in an army is it's more than many, but it's not really a ton in the grand scheme of things. I decided I was going to dedicate my professional career toward just teaching people simple things, you know. And all the while, I watch people that hate us continuously gain ground. And the one time that the notion of not free speech, but their speech being pushed on folks, and the more I see like these communist sympathies And the more that I see whatever they deem to be hate speech being taken as law, and I watch people in different circles get the worst penalties for just nothing at all, right? I mean, shoot, I've even had a brush with this, and I've been like a tiny, tiny YouTuber that just now started really giving a shit about YouTube in general over like the last year and a half. I have had a visit from the Department of Homeland Security because on Facebook one time, I didn't want to hear people talk to me about how there's 2 million genders and how I didn't want to be educated on the matter. And these same people that really, really do want to push whatever they think is right at the time, but of course there's no consistency, would start to do even crazier things over time. You know, it's funny, right? As far as political leanings, I don't talk about them much, right? Because I hate talking to people about politics. Generally speaking, the vast majority of people that I meet with regards to politics and religion and history and stuff like that only take the parts that they like, really, and then they construct a worldview around it versus having a reasonable take on anything. But as far as political leanings and that sort of stuff, I've always been honestly fairly centrist on lots of stuff. You can call it fence sitting or whatever, but I believe that conservative and traditional liberal stuff, as far as political leanings, they all have valid points. And here's the thing, right? I watched Charlie Kirk a lot. I don't know the man individually, but I watched him. And I watched a lot of the things that he had to say. The whole thing, not the 60-second clips of people trying to fan flames and be divisive and whatever. And I watched this guy. I will watch this guy engage with people that he vehemently disagrees with, but then ask when they're coming up with a question. I, I would watch him ask these people to tell them to tell him their story, to really understand the root cause of why it is this person feels this way. And that impacted me. A lot of legitimate thinkers and a lot of people that actually try to utilize their intelligence and people that I emulate would say things like, if there's a particular behavior in most people, right, something that you would find objectionable or whatever is typically a result of circumstance rather than a character flaw. And when you go about your life with this train of thought in the back of your mind, it lends a great deal of empathy. And then, of course, just through my past experiences, you run into legitimate evil that will leverage this, that will weaponize compassion, that will do everything in its power to push for their own ends while utilizing nothing more than someone else's empathy and compassion and use that against them. And again, you watch people like Charlie interact with individuals, and always you can tell he's able to sort out someone that has real questions for him or people that are just trying to be assholes. And the people that are just trying to be assholes, he'll eviscerate in a debate, because guys like that are dangerously intelligent, in that if you're going to come at him about something, you better show up correct. But he was a good man, right? I am not. Okay. I am a two-legged creature that has a notion of what I think right and wrong is, and you know, I'll make it so for myself and mine. The thing is, I don't think that there are that many truly good people out there. And man, we lost one that never did anything to earn it, you know. And there's a lot of people that are trying really hard to deflect everything from how wrong this is. You know, at first they were trying to say, you know, that his murderer, I'm not going to call him an assassin, because no, he's just an unhinged moron. They tried to make it to where this kid wasn't a product of the communist sympathizing useful idiots that have been cultured and desensitized to not have empathy, to not have any internal allegiances, which is why they try and take apart family units, right? Which try and make people believe that something like the American dream, where you own a business, own your own house, and have a legitimate and strong family unit, is not and cannot be possible, where traditional male-female roles are incompatible with modern society, that push the social construct of race, which tries to suggest that there are multiple species of human beings without actually saying it. And all that does is make people extremely lonely and extremely angry. And then if you point them at something that they can take their anger out on, what results is a man that's murdered in front of his family, and then the family is mocked for it. And prior to that, what results is entire burned down cities that are not marshaled because the police force is kowtowed by fuckers that want their voter base to be as angry as possible, so that people who are not qualified to hold their jobs can stay there. And all the while, people that are legitimately just trying to live their lives, that don't buy into this nonsense, they're just trying to make ends meet. They're just trying to make the world a little bit better for them and theirs. The word martyr is being tossed around a whole bunch, and usually when something like that is tossed around a whole bunch, it's because people have bastardized the meaning into it, not meaning what it was supposed to in the first place. But you know what? Yeah, a man was killed for his beliefs. You know, and look, the only reason why this impacts me personally is because that guy, Charlie, was a better person than most of us. But he was also still one of us. Because he believed in the strength of his family. He had a faith that he was committed to. And look, I'm not religious, me personally. But I can understand why guys like that are, and I understand why most people, in some way, are. And a lot of us look at this and they say things like, damn, that really could have been me. The reality of the matter is that no, at present, it wouldn't have been you. Because unlike him, the vast majority of people would not have had the strength to say the things that he said and converse in the ways that he did. But I think a lot of people are now. And I think that the average person that has had their empathy and their compassion and their sympathetic natures weaponized against them are seeing this for what it is. It's a bunch of people that do not want free speech. They want their speech. And man, it may have taken a really long time, much longer than a lot of people would have wanted to tolerate. But about every 30, 35 years, there's a big culture change in America. And I think it really just got kickstarted really hard. Because nobody in society right now that is celebrating his murder is looked at by the average person as anyone remotely sane. These people that just want to maintain the peace, pay their bills, and spend time with their families see that this cannot continue. And I'm watching it happen all over the place. And I'm so glad that the people that tried to say that this man wasn't martyr material are the wrongest people in the room. Now, there's a lot of you that are going to jump into this comment section and try to doom and gloom it. For what reason, I really don't know. Because being anti-optimism is one of the least American things I've ever heard. We are on the precipice of so much human achievement on the technological side of the house, on the humanity side of the house. And we're really starting to see, like, some of the greatest possible human achievements are right there or happening presently. And with this man's passing, I think we're going to be walking into it with a significantly better culture, too. Because all of these foreign nations that have been talking about how fat and useless we are still rely on us for everything. And in a lot of places that try very hard to look down on us, they're far worse off in every conceivable way. Let's not even talk about education, and let's not even talk about economies, and let's not even talk about actual human achievement. I mean, for Christ's sake, obesity rates in the biggest European countries are far worse than ours. Must be nice and cushy living or requiring us to function. And society will not be perfect going forward, and people looking to find every single problem that could possibly be dug up and be used to divide people. I'm not down with those folks. I'm not down with the guys that and gals that refuse to be anything other than black-pilled. Good guys like this that will leave a family behind. Will leave a family behind that pushes far harder than he ever did. And it's just good to know that as regrettable as Charlie Kirk's passing is, at the very least, you know, he was the cause for a turning point. That's all I got. Sunday will be our regularly scheduled stuff, but I just felt like I had to say something with respect to this guy, even if it was a little rambly. You all take care.